Hassan Sheikh Mohamud was born on 29th of November 1955 in Jalalaqsi, a quiet farming town on the banks of the Shabeelle River in central Somalia. His childhood unfolded in the optimistic early decades after Somalia's independence in 1960, a time when the Somali Republic still clung to its democratic institutions and educational ambitions. Hassan Sheikh's early life was shaped not by politics but by faith, community, and scholarship. From a young age, he was drawn to books. He attended public schools during a time when the Somali education system was still vibrant and nationally unified. His parents, though not affluent, encouraged him to pursue learning as a path to service. The ethos of the time, centered on nationalism, Pan-Africanism, and civic duty, left a lasting impression on the young Hassan. After his early education in Somalia, Hassan Sheikh pursued higher studies abroad. He traveled to India, where he earned a master's degree in technical education from Bhopal University. These years abroad were formative. Living in a multicultural society, away from clan structures and internal Somali politics, he absorbed a broader worldview, one that emphasized meritocracy, civic engagement, and the power of education to change nations. Economic hardship, clan favoritism, and political suppression were breeding unrest across the country. But instead of taking up arms or entering politics, Hassan Sheikh took a quieter, more resilient path. He became an educator. Over the following decade, he worked with several international NGOs, UN agencies, and local initiatives focused on rebuilding Somalia's broken education system. He worked in some of the most insecure parts of the country, often risking his life to establish schools, train teachers, and design technical education programs. For him, education was not just a profession, it was a form of resistance, a declaration that Somalia would not die, even if its state had collapsed. In 1999, at the height of Somalia's civil chaos, he co-founded the Somali Institute of Management and Administration Development, SIMAD. What began as a small training center for civil servants and business people in Mogadishu would later evolve into SIMAD University, a cornerstone institution in Somalia's academic revival. To many, this marked Hassan Sheikh's transformation from educator to nation builder. While others amassed militias, he built classrooms. While others printed war propaganda, he printed textbooks. Throughout the 2000s, Hassan Sheikh was seen more as a civic actor than a political figure. But by 2011, the situation in Somalia had reached another crossroads. The transitional federal government, TFG, had overstayed its mandate, corruption was rampant, and the hope of state building seemed to be fading again. Many Somalis, including members of the diaspora, began to look for new leadership, people untainted by militia pasts or factional politics. It was in this climate that Hassan Sheikh made his first real entry into politics. He founded the Peace and Development Party, PDP, a political platform rooted not in clan alliances, but in civic values, democratic principles, and constitutional governance. The PDP was a bold experiment in a country governed by the 4.5 clan formula. The idea of forming a political movement based on ideology and national policy was revolutionary. Hassan Sheikh traveled across Somalia, meeting elders, students, women's groups, and business leaders. He urged them to imagine a Somalia no longer dictated by warlords or foreign agendas. His calm demeanor, academic background, and clean record made him stand out in a sea of hardened political operatives. In September 2012, Hassan Sheikh Mohamud stunned the Somali political world by winning the presidency in a hotly contested parliamentary vote. He defeated incumbent President Sheikh Ahmed, who many believed would cruise to re-election. In the final round, Hassan Sheikh received 190 votes, a clear majority that signaled both a rejection of the past and an embrace of reform. His election was historic. It marked the end of Somalia's transitional period and the beginning of the Federal Government of Somalia, FGS. For the first time in more than 2 decades, the Somali people had a civilian president with no warlord background, no history of corruption, and no affiliation to military factions. The international community immediately welcomed the result. The United Nations, African Union, United States, and European Union hailed Hassan Sheikh as a new kind of Somali leader. Even more importantly, ordinary Somalis across clan lines expressed cautious hope that he might steer the country away from war and toward peace. Hassan Sheikh's first term from 2012 to 2017 was defined by a monumental task: to build a state from almost nothing. He inherited an empty treasury, a weak army, and a divided political landscape. Yet he insisted that Somalia could be rebuilt through dialogue, reconciliation, and institution building. One of his major achievements was the establishment of federal member states, regional governments meant to reflect Somalia's diversity while maintaining national unity. Under his watch, regions such as Jubaland, Southwest, Galmudug, and Hirshabelle were officially formed and integrated into the federal system. Though not without challenges, this federal vision became a cornerstone of Somali governance. He also laid the foundations for a national civil service, trained thousands of government employees, and oversaw the return of basic public services in several regions. Ministries that had been dormant for years were reactivated, and a new generation of Somali technocrats was called to service. But perhaps his most ambitious goal was the dream of universal suffrage. Hassan Sheikh believed that Somalia could not survive on clan quotas forever. He envisioned a democratic Somalia where every adult citizen could vote, regardless of clan, status, or location. Under his leadership, the National Independent Electoral Commission, NIEC, was established, and preparations began for direct elections. Although these elections would not materialize during his term due to logistical and security challenges, he had set a national goal: one person, one vote. When Hassan Sheikh came to office in September 2012, he inherited a simmering maritime dispute between Somalia and Kenya. The issue centered on a vast triangular area of the Indian Ocean, rich in oil and gas, claimed by both countries. The dispute had dragged on for years and had been taken by Somalia to the International Court of Justice during his first presidency. While his successor, Farmajo, saw the case through the courtroom, it was Hassan Sheikh who had laid the legal and diplomatic groundwork. It was his administration that had prepared the arguments, coordinated with international lawyers, and summoned the political courage to take Kenya, a key regional player and a U.S. ally, to the world's highest court. When the ICJ finally delivered its verdict in October 2021, Somalia was awarded a majority of the disputed maritime zone. Though Kenya rejected the ruling, the legal and moral victory was firmly in Somalia's hands. Hassan Sheikh, in his second term, upheld and implemented this judgment with unshakable resolve. He publicly stated that no inch of Somali territory, land or sea, shall be negotiated, sold, or surrendered. In a region accustomed to silence and compromise, his position was bold and unapologetic. But the greatest test of his resolve would come not from Kenya, but from Ethiopia. Hassan Sheikh sought re-election. The competition was fierce. He faced more than 20 candidates, including former Prime Minister Mohammed Abdullahi Farmajo Mohamud. In a tense and closely watched parliamentary vote, Farmajo ultimately defeated him in the third round. But Hassan Sheikh did not contest the results. He did not mobilize militias. He did not challenge the process. Instead, he did something few Somali leaders had done before. He conceded graciously. He called Farmajo, congratulated him, and ensured that the transfer of power was peaceful and dignified. That act alone elevated him in the eyes of many. In a region known for coup and contested elections, Hassan Sheikh showed that power could be surrendered with honor. His peaceful exit strengthened Somalia's fragile democratic norms and reinforced his image as a statesman, not a power seeker. After leaving office, Hassan Sheikh returned to political organizing. He transformed the Peace and Development Party into a broader alliance known as the Union for Peace and Development, UPD. As opposition leader, he crisscrossed Somalia, meeting with youth groups, civil society, and regional leaders. He became an outspoken critic of the Farmajo government, accusing it of centralizing power, undermining federalism, and delaying elections. He warned of creeping authoritarianism and called for the preservation of Somalia's fragile democratic gains. Despite attempts to marginalize him, he remained a powerful voice for democratic pluralism. By 2021, as political tensions mounted over delayed elections, Hassan Sheikh had re-emerged as the de facto leader of the opposition. He was at the center of discussions on electoral frameworks, security reforms, and reconciliation processes. Many saw him as the only leader with the experience, credibility, and temperament to stabilize Somalia again. On 15 May 2022, in one of the most consequential moments in Somali politics, Hassan Sheikh Mohamud won the presidency for a second time. This made him the first Somali president in history to be elected twice. His victory over Farmajo was seen as a public rejection of centralized rule and a return to constitutionalism. He came back to office with a matured vision, a Somalia at peace with itself and at peace with the world. His immediate priorities included rebuilding trust with federal member states, launching a national offensive against al-Shabaab, and reviving the dream of universal elections. He restarted reconciliation talks with Puntland, Galmudug, and Jubaland. He also introduced reforms to combat corruption, improve public finances, and increase government transparency. The legacy of Hassan Sheikh Mohamud lies not in dramatic military victories or revolutionary slogans, but in institutional patience, political moderation, and civic restoration. In early January 2024, the Ethiopian government, led by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, signed a controversial Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, with officials from the self-declared Republic of Somaliland, granting Ethiopia limited sea access through Somali ports in exchange for political recognition. To many Somalis, this was nothing short of an act of aggression, a foreign power cutting a backdoor deal with a breakaway region, undermining Somali sovereignty and violating international norms. Hassan Sheikh Mohamud reacted with unflinching clarity. Within hours, his government declared the MOU null and void, calling it a direct violation of Somalia's unity, independence, and territorial integrity. He summoned Ethiopia's ambassador, rallied the Somali parliament, and began a global diplomatic campaign to expose what he described as neo-imperialism in the Horn of Africa. In an extraordinary move, President Hassan addressed the African Union and later the United Nations, naming Ethiopia directly and warning the international community against legitimizing any actions that undermine Somalia's sovereignty. He reminded the world that no country, not even one that once claimed to mediate peace, had the right to carve out Somaliland or manipulate internal divisions for geopolitical gain. What made Hassan Sheikh's response exceptional was not just its force, but its discipline. He did not threaten war. He did not deploy soldiers to make a show of force. Instead, he relied on law, diplomacy, and regional solidarity. His administration swiftly strengthened ties with Egypt, Djibouti, Algeria, and Turkey, all of whom issued statements supporting Somalia's position. The Arab League released a historic communiqué backing Somalia's full sovereignty and condemning the MOU as destabilizing. He also reached out to key African and Western capitals. In Washington, his government worked to ensure that the U.S. State Department reiterated its support for Somalia's territorial integrity. In Brussels, he urged the EU to take a stand on legal norms and non-recognition of illegal agreements. Perhaps most significantly, Hassan Sheikh's public speeches struck a nerve with ordinary Somalis. He called upon the Somali people, both in the country and in the diaspora, to stand united above clan lines and political differences. Massive rallies erupted in Mogadishu, Garowe, Baidoa, Kismayo, and even Hargeisa, where people rejected Ethiopia's deal and affirmed their national identity. Somalia belongs to all Somalis, Hassan Sheikh declared, and no neighbor, however powerful, will divide us again. His administration also pursued legal channels, preparing to challenge Ethiopia's actions in international courts and threatening to sever diplomatic ties if the MOU was acted upon. This firm and unwavering resistance won him accolades at home and abroad. In the minds of many Somalis, this standoff marked a new chapter in the country's post-war identity. For decades, Ethiopia had meddled in Somalia's affairs, arming proxies, interfering in political negotiations, and exploiting internal divisions. But under Hassan Sheikh, Somalia pushed back, not with bullets, but with dignity, law, and unity. In Addis Ababa, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, once hailed as a reformer, found himself isolated. His move backfired. The international community, wary of legitimizing secessionist deals and already concerned with Ethiopia's internal conflicts in Tigray and Amhara, began to distance itself from the MOU. The African Union remained cautious, but behind closed doors, diplomatic support leaned heavily toward Somalia. In the end, Hassan Sheikh's approach achieved what few Somali leaders had managed in recent history. He shamed Ethiopia on the global stage, rallied the Somali nation under one flag, and defended the country's sovereignty without firing a single shot. His actions restored confidence in the Somali presidency as an office capable of commanding international respect. For a country long viewed as the playground of foreign agendas, Hassan Sheikh Mohamud's resistance against Kenya's maritime aggression and Ethiopia's sea ambitions marked a watershed moment in Somalia's foreign policy, a declaration that the era of silence was over. Above all, Hassan Sheikh represents continuity in Somalia's fragile democratic experiment. Twice elected, once peacefully defeated, he stands as proof that Somalia is not destined for endless war. It can evolve, it can mature, and it can be led by men and women of reason, not only by those with weapons. Thanks for watching another deep dive into Somali history and politics. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to MTV Somali channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story that matters. Comment below with your thoughts and let us know who you'd like us to cover next. MTV Somali, where history lives and the future speaks.